Amazon Prime cuts funding in Africa and the Middle East in favor of European productions. Guys, this is big news. Today I have Obaigbena Parakocha and we're going to break this down. He used to work at Red TV. He used to head Red TV's, content department, doing exceptional things there. Right now he works in a tech company. He's going to break down some of his thoughts, some of his opinions. And before we get into that, guys, you're watching Business in Nigeria on this podcast, on this YouTube channel. We talk about all things business in Nigeria. Interviews, podcast episodes, documentaries. Please, guys, click the subscribe button. It helps us so much and continues to enable us to make more videos, more content, higher quality content. If you guys just like the video and subscribe, it's a little ask from you, doesn't require much from you, and it's free. And actually it allows us to secure bigger guests. If you want to get insights, key insights from Nigerian business leaders, like this video, subscribe, because they'll be impressed. They'll say, oh, you guys have 50K subscribers. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna come on your show. But with just how many subscribers we have don't even have 1,000. Guys, let's get to 1,000 subscribers. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers, at least we won't look so small. And, I will take it from there and I'll be able to secure bigger, better guests. And I have access to these people. I have their numbers, I have their contact, but they're not going to take me seriously if I only have 1,000. I don't even have 1,000 subscribers. So they're not going to come on my show. So if you guys want me to start getting big names on this, just subscribe. That's all I ask. All right, let's get into the video. So let's talk about Amazon Prime exiting Nigeria, right? What do you think? What are your thoughts? First take.
Okay, I think that if you look at it on the surface quickly, you see that it's clearly an executive decision that has to do with economics. And but let's pack that aside and start from here. So obviously, if you look at what's been happening with a lot of businesses, especially around streaming, it's really around, okay, so we have several markets. As you know, the film and television business is about regionalization. So we have film and content that essentially is broadcast in various regions. And at the end of the day, we're also looking at building the brand from an economic perspective. So we need to get subscribers in different regions. So, obviously, Netflix is the first player to come here. I mean, the natural progression is that other, big streamers will, okay, look, let's explore Africa. Let's go see what's there for us. So I guess sometime 2 years ago, Prime said, okay, look, I think the next frontier for us is let's go to Africa. And they came in trying to build an originals team, trying to look at what was happening. I've been part of these conversations because when 2021, they sponsored Afrif, and they came into, this was pretty much their first time coming into market, looking at what was there. I can't remember, that then chief marketing officer Okonwa and James Garner, a bunch of people sat down in the room, and they were like, this is what we're going to do. They were like, what are the big stories we can tell about? What are the kind of stories people are telling about, talking about big action set pieces, those kinds of things. They want to come here and really shake things up. And true to their word, 6 months after that, they put together an originals team, and interesting is because I actually was interviewed for a position, on the originals team, but I didn't make it anyway. So, but an interesting thing was that within that process, I was able to ask certain questions, and not just as somebody wanting to get a job, but somebody who was really interested in growing the ecosystem, someone who's really interested in Nollywood's development. Like, okay, so what's going to happen? Are you guys going to do stuff differently? So things like we want to tap into what's happening locally, put our ears on the ground to have an idea of what is really wanted or what is needed, or the kinds of talents that have been getting snubbed. That kind of thing. So what are the people who are doing great work but haven't had the opportunity to shine? So this was the impressions they were giving, like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to make things happen. I like, okay. Then they put together a team, and I initially, the kind of content that we're seeing before they actually say announcing collaborations and agreements was not really great. I know Amazon has this thing where you can actually upload stuff where you have this basically you earn per view. we
Yeah, and it caps at $70,000.
exactly. So they announced, they announced the first set of deals with Ingblood, then Anthill follows. Then there's this big announcement with the director, which has never been done before with Jade Oshiberu, Then Gangs of Lagos premieres as the first original. I'm like, okay, it's beginning to happen. It's happening, and you would see, for those of us in Nigeria, there's so much investment in out of home for the originals. Cool big LED boards, and stuff like that. In various key locations. And the truth is, I was a bit surprised. Just less than a week ago to hear that they were pulling out, because it was contrary to what I expected, because they assigned all these contracts. They were going to do these big things. We're going to get a lot of people on projects, and friends of mine who had even had signed contracts and stuff like that. So it was two-pronged. So if you look at what has been happening within the global streaming space, you find out that even Netflix cut down jobs last year. Amazon itself had even globally cut 27,000 jobs. Then you hear about the uncertainties within the streaming space. In fact, what had even happened was that I think a month ago, in December, they had introduced an option of ads that you can pay for, a package you can pay for. So you wanted an option without ads, you pay a certain amount of pounds. This is in the UK. If you want a package with ads, you pay. So I guess that's an indicator of the fact that, look, all may not be well, and this is a drive to get more revenue. So I think it took a lot of people by surprise to see that suddenly they were slashing funding around originals, which I felt...
So can I just say, I just want to say that ad model is actually here in the UK, and I believe that, in the US. And in terms of like on Hulu with Disney, most of these platforms have the ad option. I believe Netflix is also going to include, they just announced that Netflix is also going to include an ads option, again, to drive more revenue. But I think on the bigger scale of things, we have to look at, like you said, it's an economics issue, but on the biggest grand scale of things, content is a declining medium for income generation. Now, at the end of the day, like I like to say, content is not the product, it is marketing. That's one of my sayings. But when you look at what's happening across the media space in America, at these big companies, the Disneys, the NBCs, all of these companies, they're all financially declining. Because before, the business model was cable TV, when you're paying a significant amount every month for cable, almost $100 a month. Correct. But today, with streaming, when you're going from $100 a month all the way down to $10 per streamer per month, that's a significant jump. And also, then advertising, because consumers are online watching content for free, the advertising dollars are not there anymore. So this is always inevitable that this was going to happen. It's just that in the ad business, they they kept people, they kept the advertising dollars as much as they could, and that could fly in 2015, 2013, that could fly. But I think by 2020, it was just clear that the ad dollars are online. they came online. So now that they don't have a stronghold on the ad dollars anymore, and TV ads are just not going to generate as much money, or the business, ad buyers are not going to get impact from buying television ads. They have no incentive to pay these companies money. So the streaming was a way for them to say, okay, let's at least get paid for pay-per-view, pay for our content. But when you can go on YouTube or you can go on TikTok and you can watch content that actually relates to you, why on earth would you pay, $10 a month to 10 streamers? It doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the day, when you look at it, YouTube has about, I think, 2 billion viewers a day, something like that. And Netflix has 200 million subscribers, right? So it's like 10 times the consumption on YouTube than it is on Netflix, right? And then YouTube is free. When you actually really think about it, even those people that are paying $10 a month, how much are they really opening Netflix to watch?
Yeah, Netflix? How much are they going?
They're not to
watch.
I think the last time I watched Netflix was probably 4 weeks ago. I just have my subscription, but I'm not. I bought YouTube. I was on just before.
Of course, that's
just before I was talking to you. Like, you're on
I
YouTube
literally.
all day,
Let
every
me tell
day.
you, in my room, like there are also those in the studio. I have a projector, and on my smart projector is YouTube. It just plays, so it's kind of
Yeah.
So it's just there. So
It's constant.
I completely agree with you. It's part of your life. I mean, there is no. In fact,
Yeah.
in work, you can't even if you work within whatever profession you do, whatever you do, you need YouTube every day. Either you're learning something,
You do.
you're watching the news, you're gathering information. It's part of your life. It's that. So
Yeah.
I think you make a lot of
So I think I want to conclude with, like, the reason Amazon works in America and it doesn't work in Africa is because of infrastructure. The reason that people are on Amazon, majority of people are on Amazon Prime, is because of the delivery service and the convenience of getting supplies to you or whatever you need within 10 hours, 5 hours, the speed at which
it comes to you.
You can get things that you want delivered.
Correct.
Right? I have an Amazon Prime. I don't watch any of the shows at all. I have my Amazon Prime just to get anything I need delivered. I want to order it online. I go on Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? And so, unfortunately, I think because they bundled that package together, right, to entice people, okay, watch our content also, because it's really just marketing to get people to get Amazon Prime and get the delivery service, right? But when you look at Africa, because you can't, especially if you look at Nigeria, for example, we have such a big infrastructure issue that, and anything you order on Amazon, when it's going to take you weeks, months to get it, right? So because you can't bundle that service, they must have found big challenges expanding, especially in a market where Netflix is dominating, is what we call network effects. Please go on.
Here's my here's my reaction to that. I hear you, because I know that if you look at what Apple does with Apple TV, it's pretty much the same thing. So you have this add-on service for people who are in the Apple ecosystem, and Apple has stuck to it. They're not in any race with anybody. It's really about what they want to do and what they want to do for people who are within the Apple ecosystem. That's great. But for Amazon, here's why I differ a bit. So these guys, so Prime, you have Prime, you want to get more people to subscribe to Prime, here's our content, watch it, etc. But these guys have Amazon Prime Studios. They went ahead, invested in acquiring MGM. These guys are deliberate. Here's what I think. I think that they probably haven't counted the cost of actually being an active player in that market. So you're spending, for instance, we all know how much they spent on Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. It is the most expensive show ever put together by any production anywhere in the world. 15, 16 million per episode. Insane. I felt that they hedged the bet and things really did not pan out the way they planned. That's what I think. And for them, this is rolling back and saying, okay, you know what? I think we didn't plan so well. Let's go back and re-strategize. Because you cannot buy an MGM, buy the entire James Bond franchise. They own it now. So you can't make that kind of decision if you are not deliberate and intentional about building a powerful streaming service that will compete again. So
this is where I think people, I hear what you're saying, but this is why I disagree, and I think people don't understand is that, I say it again, content is not the product, it is marketing. If content is not your priority, like, this is when you're thinking about people going to pay to watch a movie, going to pay to consume things, that's for the industrial era. We're in the information era now. And if content is not the product, why would I spend more money than I need to? Why would I invest more time than I need to in my marketing if it's not giving me an ROI on what I'm actually selling? And the way that Amazon is very, very smart is their bundling system. They have a new product, they have a new rollout that they're about to start, which is going to give them so much more money than they could have possibly made from any streaming thing. And that is the healthcare plans that they're doing, where you're going to be able to get, with Amazon Prime membership, you're going to be able to get a GP, a general practitioner, or any doctor, mobile doctor, and you pay them. It's part of your Amazon Prime subscription, and you can get what do they call it?
Treatment, like telemedicine, right?
Yeah, telemedicine. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So within your Amazon Prime subscription, if you're feeling sick and the healthcare is such a big issue in America,
it's a big, very big issue.
It's a global issue, right? If you need to see a doctor immediately with your Amazon subscription, you'll be able to do that, and then you pay a little bit extra for him to give you subscriptions in your locale, right? So my thing is, what people are not seeing about Amazon is that Jeff Bezos is very clear about this business is about customer centricity, and I'm going to position myself where the customer needs me. And because they do that, they're supplying our basic necessities and needs. And when you look at the content space, everybody else that is making content is making it so they can generate income. Disney and Amazon are playing. They don't need your income from how much are you going to pay $10? They don't need your money. You've already paid $2,000 for your laptop and $1,000 for your iPhone. They don't need your petty $110 a month. Like, they don't need it.
And you paid your,
but
$20 for your date.
Right. But because at the end of the day, when it comes to, let's not neglect that, yes, content is not the product, it is marketing. Content generates hype and admiration for any sort of business brand, right? So that making a show like Lord of the Rings makes people sort of, it kind of just adds to the admiration of the Amazon brand, and that also applies to Amazon, Apple, like, with their thing, right? Yeah, sure, it pops up if you see it, if you want to watch it. When you turn on your computer, it'll pop up if you want to watch it, but it's just supplementary. It's just packaging. Like, you work in content marketing. It's just, it's easy, but it's not, it's not the actual focus. But the reason that Netflix reduced their budgets, Netflix is in the content business. So they're always going to struggle. Anyone that's in the content business, especially the changing landscape, they're going to struggle competing, right? They're going to struggle when they compete with real businesses.
And another thing, to add to what you're saying is, like, for me, what I've always said is, and like I put out an article on LinkedIn just speaking about this entire thing, is I don't think anybody has figured out the streaming business. I think that it still is full of possibilities, because first of all, from an investment standpoint, it's going to take you a bottomless pit of dollars to even break even, because it's a deficit business. You keep piling on deficits and piling on deficits. Even Disney, remember when Disney was going to launch, they pulled out all Disney content from everywhere, from Netflix everywhere. They put it all together. They started Disney Plus. Yes, they, an appreciable number of subscribers, but it has not been smooth sailing, because when you're building out that streaming business, it is tough. Because it's kind of like you have to have consistently have content. I need to consistently fund the production of the content. Either you're acquiring, you're leasing, you're commissioning, whatever it is. However it is you're doing it. So it's tough.
So this is where I actually disagree. This is where I disagree with you.
Yeah.
When you said people haven't figured out the content business, it's already been figured out. It's on YouTube.
Because here's my.
But okay.
Fade out.
Let me.
I need to. This is what I mean. This is being profitable from doing streaming is what I mean. I mean, in terms of how you acquire, that's a given. My point is how you actually make money from it. The streamers, when Netflix just announced their, I think they just grew by I can't remember the numbers now, but they had some level of growth in this last quarter, that kind of thing. But it's been tiny increments. That's my point.
Okay, so this is what I'll say. This is what I'll say to what you've said, and I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is that it is not a business model that will last for more than 20 years. It will be done.
Okay.
The business model, when I say streaming has already been figured out, content is free. It is YouTube. Mr. Beast gets 10% of the world to watch his videos every time he drops a video, right? But the real business model...
To watch, though?
You said what?
Is he always going to make stuff that people want to watch in that...
So again, that's not what the conversation is, right? But let me just explain what I'm trying to get at with when I bring him up, right? And that's going to be up to his ability to move with consumer behavior, and that seems to be what he does. He says that he's obsessed with what the algorithm is telling him, because the algorithm is the audience, right? But Mr. Beast is not and also let's look at the fact that a Fortune 500 company invested $50 million into his business. Also, Jake Paul, a Fortune 500 company invested $50 million into his business. So these are the new content hubs.
Yeah.
They're no longer
Content.
The Disney.
If you like, yeah.
These are the new. This is the new business of content.
A business model that is taking shape now. I mean,
well, let me explain it. Let me explain it, right? Because it's not, like I said, at the end of the day, at the pinnacle of that, even though I bring Mr. Beast up, the pinnacle of that is Amazon and Disney. They are selling you a product. Content is marketing their product. Beneath them is the hyper influencers, the mega influencers. The Logan Pauls, who has just built Prime Hydration, which is taking over Gatorade. It's already, like, I think the company's already valuated over $1 billion now. Mr. Beast, who has Feastables, which is a chocolate bar, on all the Walmarts. That company is making. That company is I think that company's already $1 billion company. And then, like, so it's people that understand that you create a product and then you use content to push and sell it. And the funny thing is that I believe that Nigeria started this.
Oh, yeah.
It started with in Danny TV. It started with you guys at Red TV and Accelerate TV. Nigeria already started this.
20.
You know,
I've seen now.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that model was not about, oh, let us sell these movies. No, let us get people to subscribe to our bank. Let's get people to
our content.
You know, yes, and that's what it was about. So it's interesting how Nigeria is in a unique position because of the nature of where we are, that we innovate in ways that we don't even realize. We innovate and we're ahead in ways that we don't realize that we're ahead. And the rest of the world is catching up to some of the things that we do, but we do it based on necessity because our film industry wasn't developed. And you're going to see I think you're going to see a major crash in Hollywood. You know, with all these movies that they're putting 100 million into the movie, it's not generating income like that. I think we're going to see a major crash in Hollywood in terms of how these productions are funded.
Exactly. And that's brings me to the other point that I always make, that at the end of the day, technology is really going to disrupt the content creation space, and whatever opportunities that are going to be latent within that space will be brought about by how technology disrupts that space. And that's exactly what you're talking about. You know, but then again, you're giving two examples, you know, Mr. Beast and Logan Paul. You know, the truth about it is that I think that, and I was having this conversation with somebody within the space here, and the person was saying, at the end of the day, why do we need big budgets for these productions? Why? Because
for which productions?
Anyone. I mean, why do we have to be?
Because of quality. Because you want quality. Because you're not always going to get a Game of Thrones.
So here's the thing. If we really look at it, what are we paying for? You know, because at the end of the day, this is, if you look at, for instance, what some streamers probably will be their ideal situation is, they don't pack with so much money, but then again, they'll be able to get that quality. And can we get to a point where that is possible? The answer is yes, like what we've just said, what we just were speaking of.
Oh, I think when it comes to AI, when it comes to technology, it will bridge the gap. Like, let's not forget
actually
that
my point.
Before 2007, and the proliferation of DSLRs,
correct,
it was not that easy for people to make cinematic content.
It's
right.
Yeah.
So and look, everybody makes it now. Sorry, go on.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Now that theatrical making box is now in the palm of your hand. That's what I mean. You know, that's my point. You know, so the democratization of technology has made it possible for people to now create this. And the truth about it is that it doesn't take more. I mean, we watch YouTube, right? You see how some of these filmmakers are able to create astonishing looking work for 1/32 or 1/16 of what a regular Hollywood budget will be like. And that's the point I'm trying to make, because what tends to happen is that as long as we're able to sort of, should I say, put quality in bite-sized bits and not spend so much money, that's the future. When you can actually take that big budget and make so much.
So here's what I would say, because at the end of the day, there's a difference between Game of Thrones and any other show that you're going to mention. There's a difference between Lord of the Rings and any other random show. And then also, we have to understand that a lot of these budgets, these budgets go into the human power that is pushing and creating this stuff. And we're already seeing a major issue with like the writer strike in America, with all these all these filmmakers and stuff.
You let have my job,
right? And so unfortunately, I think film is a dying medium, and TV in terms of. But let me land. Let me land. Let me just land. Let me land. No. Let me land. And then I'll get you. Let me land this plane.
Yeah, land.
Film is so at the end of the day, right? In the 1800s,
correct.
The biggest thing that got our attention was opera.
Mm-hmm.
Today, who is watching opera? Who goes to the opera house? I'm not saying it's going to die.
But people,
it's an art form that people appreciate. But that was the pinnacle of success in the 1800s.
Yeah, aristocrats. I mean,
in the 1900s, but those are the people that could pay for stuff. In the 1900s, there was more people had access to money. There was a middle class in the 1900s, but that was film. That was film's era.
Yep. The golden age of Hollywood. Yeah, correct. 30s, 40s. Yeah. Right.
That is where attention was there. Today, there is no film that gets the attention of social media. Not even content. I won't minimize it and say content creation, but consumers of things that are online, on videos online. We consume, like I just explained, that
we consume user.
That YouTube has 1 billion viewers.
I know.
Every day.
Yeah.
2 billion, and Netflix has 200 million. And it's not every day.
I get.
It's not even once a month.
I get you.
It may be really the people that watch Netflix maybe 100 million, maybe like 50 million a month.
Yeah. The numbers speak for themselves. Correct. And it's all around user-generated content because people watch other people. Right. And so that's really it.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to cinema, the attention isn't there already, right? Doesn't mean that it's going to die. It just means that it's going to continue to decline because now people don't even want to pay for it.
That's what I said. So that's what I think. And I agree with you in certain respects because the numbers don't lie. But here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I feel that in some time to come, technology will disrupt that space and make it in such a way that we have a completely different way of consuming cinema and that space. That's what I think. TV and
we've already done that. It's already done that though. We watch it on a lot of. If you talk to your kids, how do your kids watch movies? Isn't on their cell phone?
No, exactly. What I've been saying is that a time is coming. That's just now. That's just maybe another 2-3. But my point is, there is room for disruption. There is room for technology to go.
There's more disruption. Yes. There's going to be more disruption is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I feel. And it's going to happen. Right. And it's going to happen. And I feel that's what, because I agree with you. I agree with you. But I also think that, in fact, there's a time when I actually thought this might just be the end of cinema as we know it and all that stuff. But somehow it still has a resilient way of still making it, of still being there. Because the truth about it is that, look,
it's not going to be there.
It's not going to be there because the truth about it is that regardless of whether you have a 100-inch, Samsung TV in your living room or you have an iPhone 15 or whatever, when you go to a cinema, you go to an IMAX, Image Maximum, and you listen to a prophonic surround sound, it's something it does.
It's different. Yeah. But it goes back to what I said about where is the pinnacle of attention and what is not the pinnacle of attention. When you think about arts, there was a time when painting was the only way for you to get a photographic image of somebody. Painting was necessity. That a painter, do you understand?
Yeah.
But today, it doesn't mean that painters aren't making money anymore. But paintings are being sold for $100 million.
Yeah, because they mean
$500 million.
They mean something else now. It's an asset class. It's a lot. It means. So my point is, again, I think you're making a point because it's going to change the fact that it will lose relevance. It just becomes that It just becomes the fact that it's an option for something, as opposed.
It's an art form.
Exactly.
It's an appreciated art form.
It's an art form that you can appreciate, that is still audiovisual, that you can consume, but it's optional. The main thing is what you are talking about, and I agree with you. Where the numbers are,
it's the attention. Where the attention is.
Index is, the attention capital is, which is obviously social media, user-generated content, YouTube, etc. Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Yeah.
And the reason why, when you look at Amazon's business model, let's not forget that they own Twitch.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So they own Twitch is like the number one live streaming
exactly
platform
in the world.
You have Twitch streamers earning $400,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
So like Amazon is already in the business of content, you know, to the effect that this is just an add-on, right, to their business.
Yeah, I think.
And what do they use
specifically for?
What?
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Kenim.
I was just gonna say, what do they use Twitch to do? Not only do people pay for subscribers, but you can use your Amazon Prime on Twitch to access games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's really just, all of these things are just content marketing. When you understand the attention economy, it's all of these little plays are just content marketing. So my real conversation, and this is where I want to pivot the conversation, is where does Africa, at what point at Africa do we need to understand that these people are not coming in to be saviors? Why can't we help ourselves?
Exactly.
If we had the infrastructure in place, then it would make sense for Amazon to stay, because they can push for Amazon Prime subscriptions.
Yeah.
And regardless of that, there's a reason that Amazon Prime is not in China. Facebook is not in China. China has solved its own problems in-house. Why are we thinking?
Yeah.
Why are we thinking that these American white-run organizations are going to come to Africa and save us?
Correct.
When, in fact, when you actually look at what they're doing, the content that they're pushing out is denigrating us. Like, how are they putting Lagos gang boys or whatever nonsense that, sorry, whoever made it, I'm sorry, but you're putting shows about that are perpetuating negative stereotypes about black people. And then you wonder when you go out of Africa and you're being treated like a second class or less than a dog. But you let these people come into our space, push their own propaganda against our people. We should not even allow it.
I hear you.
But I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, where does Africa sit across the table, which is the question, you know, where are we in this grand scheme of things? I feel that it's an eye-opener for us, you know, so, and here's how I'm going to take this conversation. Now, I think that in Africa, because of how, how a bit fractured things are, especially when it comes to economics and things like that, for a very long time, the focus of investment by deep pockets, you know, that is whether it's, individuals, companies, funds and whatever, the interest has always been in the oil and gas sector because they know that it yields returns. For a very long time, between the, oil was founded in the 50s, 60s, and stuff like that. We had an oil boom in the 70s. That's where pretty much all the largest infrastructure in Nigeria was built, all the bridges, etc., and stuff like that. Now, at some point, we had so many oil and gas servicing companies because people were setting up these companies because they knew that if they invested in that space, they would get returns, large returns. They would say things about things like briefcase portfolio, because I worked a little bit in downstream in oil and gas, so I pretty much understand how that space works. Now, if you look at other aspects of investment, they didn't really. I think the next best thing after oil and gas was the banking industry, because it was built by people who felt, okay, you know what, building a bank is systemically important. The CBN backs it, stuff like that. People need to put their money somewhere. So things like that. So the thing about it is that if you don't invest in anything intentionally, that thing cannot succeed. That's the truth. Now, for a very long time, what you have, and here's the funny thing, the whole Nollywood space or the whole Nollywood business happened by accident, because some guys in Alaba were trying to get rid of VHS tapes, and they had so much of them. As okay, the only way to do this is to probably turn this into films, and so they started producers, all these guys, Obaigbena Music, these guys in the Pound Road on Onitsha in the early 90s, put together a bunch of people. Okay, can you make films? Okay, let's live in Mbasa, and made all these films and started selling them VHS tapes, and that's how they were able to sell these things, that kind of thing. They make copies of it. Now, somehow, I mean, Nollywood itself was christened by a Japanese reporter working for the New York Times. Came to observe it, I think, 1995, where they were making some movies, and says, the whole process is like open heart surgery. As he called our industry Nollywood. Not from nothing wood, like from nothing, we're creating this thing. That's really, Nakaguchi. I mean, that's the Japanese report. Anyway, the point here is that it just happened by accident, and pretty much it started to grow on people. We started to see directors, producers who said, okay, you know what, let's tell our stories, let's bring this to life. And somehow, this industry was birthed. Now, we're at a point where technology has pretty much, disrupted the whole thing. We've got YouTube, we've got smart devices, we've got stuff like that. And we're able to now, the whole world is able to see us now. Then the question now becomes, how do we make Nollywood film production to a place where you can invest money? I was having a conversation with somebody and said, what is missing is that we fail to see it as an investment asset class, where you put an investment in this thing through a special purpose vehicle and you're able to make money. Now, the problem is that a lot of, and to be honest, it's where you've always been cap in hand most of the time, it affects how you think. Now, if we are taking a look at ourselves and say, look at what happened in Korea, for instance, the government, through intentional investment, has developed as a vehicle to brand their country, that kind of thing. So it's not just about empowering filmmakers, it's also national branding, that kind of thing. A leap from that and say, okay, you know what, beyond just, people, because all we see is individual efforts, to be honest. All the big names we know within the space have just been people who have been privileged. They've been able to put money together. They've done one or two titles that have been, that's done well. They've invested, and it's all about names. But we don't have an industry. Yeah. There is no collective. Like, for instance, what is the going rate for a grip, for instance, or for a best boy? There's no standard rate. You go to this company, they tell you X. When you go to South Africa, down south, it's standard. You go anywhere, this is the hourly rate, this is the NUC. So it's all, so we don't have an industry per se. So I feel that for Nigeria, we need to, number one, we need to look inwards. We need to start to look at area, because there's money in Nigeria. There is money in Africa.
Yeah.
So, and I think one quick win is this, and I've been having these conversations. If you look at, everybody's been talking about, waxing lyrical about the Tribe Called Judah, and it's made 1.2 billion naira. The point is, that is with less than 200 screens nationwide. Imagine if we had 1,000 screens, 2,000 screens. Well, we're talking about 2-3 quadruple that figure. My point is, we're going to look at, now people are going to see that community cinemas can work, like what you have in India, where every 100, 200 yards, you find a cinema. It doesn't have to be super equipped, but you have the licenses, you can cut out piracy, then you that kind of thing. So I've been having conversations, to be honest, the last couple of days, on people who are actually getting into the community cinema space. That's great. That's one way we can get people, more players in the sector, to actually have more screens. Because at the end of the day, what do people need? The producer wants money. The executive producer wants return on his investment. Investors wants ROI. So what we're talking about, how do we get the money? And the point is that as diversify distribution channels, we create, let's forget this whole, somebody's coming to pay us to do originals. Forget that. Look inwards. Diversify distribution channels, create, opportunities. And again, the government, has to create, and I mean, I will almost shoot myself for saying it, creating policies that help people build on structures to build upon these businesses. So, yeah.
So can I just say, there are a few things I want to say from what you said, right? First of all, the idea that it was a foreigner that came to Christian Nollywood, that should already be a problem in your mind, that we don't even own our own industry, right? That is the mindset of the colonized mind. Says everybody else should give us validation. Yeah. We don't give ourselves the validation, right? Yeah. It's almost like you saw it in the New York Times. They said, "Wow, that yes."
And we adopted.
Genocide.
Yeah, and became
Yes, we just took what they gave us. Yeah. And so this mentality of the colonized mind is already what is shooting us in the foot. We're looking to other people. Come and help us. No.
Big problem.
So when we talk about what we've just discussed, right, and we look at the companies that have used content marketing, do you understand? So who can really fund Nollywood? It is the businesses, and I'm not saying that a lot of people don't want to do things that they can't do, but they have to understand that content is marketing. It is propaganda.
It is.
And when you understand why is America the world's superpower,
It's me.
yes, number one, they hold on, let me finish. Number one, they make sure their military dominated. It was World War II. Their military dominated. And at the same time, they used their movies and exported the American belief system around the world. Now, what does American belief system say about black people? It says that we are less than dogs. And so when we leave the world and we go on the table to negotiate,
you look down.
We are treated less than dogs because we're not believed to be any better. Now, when we see going on with Afrobeats, that is changing the narrative, and that is even now allowing, now that we go into the table, Nigeria with Tinubu can go to these international meetings and they can say, no, we are a strong country now. This is now the tone that they are following. It is Afrobeats that has helped them get there with that branding, because everybody will say, oh yes, I know Nigeria, oh yes, it's familiarity.
Correct.
Now if we can take cinema, because music can only do so much, it can give you vibes. Cinema is storytelling. It is the key of propaganda.
Correct.
Now if we can use that cinema to tell people who we are, how we should be valued, where we should be, etc., that is when you now can say, I can sell any product and I can push it back to Nigeria. You can brainwash and use propaganda to control the minds of anybody. But instead, what do we have that is coming out? Gangs of Lagos. And what's the other one? All these things that are just denigrating black people. It's not going to help us. That's another whole conversation, right? So when we go, they say, oh, you guys are gangsters, you got criminals, you're this. Why would they want to give you investment?
Well,
why would they want to, empower you?
I have a different view. I feel that for me, as a creative, I feel that all stories are welcome as long as you are. And I agree with you on one thing. Content is actually branding, national branding. You use that to paint a picture of who you want to look, who you want to be. Because I keep telling people in Russia, and like for instance, if you studied, film history, a lot of developments and inventions of film are credited to some Russians. I've forgotten, there's a particular type of editing machine that was really invented by, I can't remember his name, but the point is that these guys understood the power of propaganda. You talk about how Stalin and how Chairman Mao used this medium. Like for instance, you go to China, you see films funded by the government that talk about how they are. Do you know that? For instance, if you're a war aficionado, you know about the Allied forces in Germany, World War II. You know about also how America fought the Germans, Allied forces fought the Japanese as well. Now, in Chinese storytelling, they have counter narratives that show them defeating all these guys. So my point is, that's how powerful film is. Film has the power to change how people view a country, people view a people.
Yes, that is what film is. That is what film is.
Exactly.
That is what film is. It is propaganda.
The thing is, I remember I was sitting one time in Africa and I sat with a bunch of, filmmakers and producers, and they were saying how, if your film if it's not commercial, forget it. Then you should not be, there's nothing like art house. And I said, look, I was talking to people who are around me. I said, look, do you guys realize that the art itself, let's even forget film, the art, prose, literature, there's a reason why they say the pen is mightier than the sword. In war, the most powerful, not the guns and not the machine gun, is the propaganda. You say, like,
absolutely.
Exactly, you tell, you are losing, but you're writing letters to the world telling, oh, we're actually winning. Oh, we just actually, towards terror. Yes. It's the same thing can be extended to film, because you take that pen and you write a script that is acted out, that is you play. That's what it is. So it is so powerful, and I feel that in Nigeria, beyond just paying lip service and just jump, because what's happening is that it's almost as if the government is jumping on the back. Oh, it's doing well, jump on it. You do well, jump on it. We should be intentional about how we build infrastructure, how we fund that space, how we empower filmmakers who don't have what it takes to make their films, create tax rebates. People who set up this sort of companies, give them tax rebates. They don't have to pay all the taxes in the world, that kind of thing. Empower them to tell these stories, because I feel that if we're going to really, really catalyze change in our continent, rebrand our image, I think film, the arts, and by extension, film is how it can happen.
And to agree, just to add to what you're saying, right? We have to control the narrative that we allow be perpetuated about Nigerians around the world.
Correct.
Do you understand? Like, so when it comes to our cinema, why should Amazon? There's a few things around Nollywood that it makes sense that Amazon would say, "Oh, let's push the European market instead of Africa," right?
Uh-huh.
It's not as though they're getting original stories coming out of Nollywood. When you actually think about, it's a copycat of what is happening in the West, which is such a disservice to Nigerian stories. Because when you speak to the average Nigerian about what they go through in their life, these stories are so dynamic and so different and so unique. I don't understand why I'm going to the movie theater and I'm watching something about a heist, a casino heist in Nigeria. When has any Nigerian ever
It's not
experienced any such thing?
not relatable, like my friends would say. It's not
a real Nigerian story. You saw Ocean's Parade or Ocean's 7 and you said, let me make a Nigerian version of it. That is not how it works. If we really want Amazon to be demanding to stay, we have to look at what Korean dramas have done. They made Squid Games. That was a uniquely Korean essenced story.
correct.
And to the effect that the West had to say, no, we're going to go and copy this, and we're going to go and try and do our own version of it, right?
Because we're successful.
That's what you want to do. But the authenticity is what made it successful.
Exactly.
So what I implore Nollywood filmmakers is not just the business side of things, which is very important, but it's that authenticity, and that's actually what makes Afrobeats so universal, right?
Yeah.
The fact that no matter, even though Afrobeats copies a lot of things from hip hop music, Pidgin English is unique to us. Those rhythms are unique to us. So we married the two, that there's no way anybody can compete with Afrobeats. They can't replicate what we've done. So if we are telling real Nigerian stories, then there's going to be, and it's as, high quality.
Yes,
there's going to be a thirst for what we're doing, and there's just no demand for it.
So somebody, his uncle, when he says something and he says, we have a lot of filmmakers, but we have very few artists. There's a difference. We have so many.
Yes.
So when you look at, and this is my analogy, you're probably going to laugh. Nollywood has been infiltrated by what's that word now? By a lot of people who. So it's a cheese factory, correct? So Hollywood has been taken over by interlopers who see the industry as a cheese factory. They put in milk on one end, they put in milk on one end, and they get cheese on the other end. What happens in the middle is not their business, because it is a means to an end. They see.
So can I just say this?
Quick way to make a living, to earn a buck.
Can I just say this though? This is the only, that because of that, Nollywood would not exist without that. The reason why our healthcare industry is failing is because we have technicians starting hospitals. Doctors are starting hospitals. No, I'm not joking. It's not actually a joke. I have a documentary. I'm releasing it here on this channel.
Wow.
About the healthcare industry. It's well researched,
Technician.
right? And it's actually, because when you have a technician that is running a business, the business is going to fail. So for Nollywood to be where it is today, we needed the business entrepreneurs to build it.
Oh yeah, sure.
And they've done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Now it's time for them to sort of let go of that control and partner with the artists to make real art.
Exactly. And
yes.
And the funny thing is, you see, and there's also this argument. Oh, there's art house and there's commercial film. And I say to them, no. Look at it this way: you look at films that come out from Hollywood. There's a reason why we like to watch them. One, and there's a reason why some of them are really successful. And here's the thing: every bit of the value chain is done excellently. So you look at the pictures; they look insanely good. The technicality is good, the picture is good, the sound is great, the stories are I don't know about in general, stories might be declining, but the truth is that there's something that glues you to the film. So technically,
that's another conversation though.
That's another conversation, but here's where I'm going to with this. At least in the 90s, we watched great films. We watched really good films, right? You look at The Godfather, you look at so many other, era-defining films. My point is, every part of the filmmaking process is excellent. From technicalities around film, around the picture, around the sound, the storytelling, excellent. And that's the point. We need to come to that part where technicality, commercial filmmaking marries the artistic side of it. That is where you have an excellent product. And again, I tell people
let me just add to what I had said.
Go ahead.
Okay. What I had said earlier about us being innovators before even the West.
Yeah.
Right? With Red TV and the rest of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
In the same breath, what is happening in the West in terms of storytelling is there's a major disconnect with what consumers are actually watching on social media and what they care about.
Correct.
Versus what is actually coming out of Hollywood. It's like all they have to do is get on TikTok and watch what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And because also the market is so much more split than it was before because of the nature of algorithms. Each algorithm is personalized for a different for an individual and their community. We're finding that you can no longer, and this is where Hollywood is failing, right? They're doing these ensemble casts with multicultural essences and all of that stuff. But when it actually comes down to it, they need to split those audiences because the white men, they want their white male heroes and they want those movies to stay. And actually, even though I can argue with them till tomorrow about this, I actually understand where they're coming from, whereby I don't want to watch a woman as Superwoman doing blah blah blah, but that's fine. Because the white men should continue to get their movies from the 80s about the Braveheart and all those movies. But then also the women need to get their movies.
Exactly.
The Indians need to get their movies. The Africans, the blacks need to get their movies. We need that segregation. If you're really going to tap into what is going on social media, not only do you have to split the audiences, you actually have to talk about topics that individual audiences actually want to watch. And because Hollywood is not doing that now, and they're so disconnected, and they think, oh, this is what I think audiences were gonna want to watch, and then they put it out. If you just go on TikTok and you look at what people are actually talking about in different communities, and you make movies about that, then you're going to see that's when you're going to see success in this modern era. Because why would I watch a movie when I can just continue to watch TikTok? And if Nollywood takes that and says, okay, what are Nigerians talking about on social media, and you make movies about that, you already know the market is there.
Correct.
You understand? So
I think,
and then it's authentic.
Yes.
That's how you make something that's universal.
If you ask me, you make a very valid point, because I feel that when you look at filmmakers like the producers like Funke Akindele, I think that as a producer, and her real defining moment came when she created Jennifer's Diaries, and that became a microcosm of what the Nigerian daily living experience is like. So she took that, amalgamated that, put that together, and embodied that on front of the camera. So it's carried that to her, and that's why I feel she gets these numbers, because apart from her personality that really, comes across, or really, she has a really affectionate personality by regular Nigerians, because they see her as authentic, as someone we can relate to, that kind of thing. So she brings that, and she's mastered the art of being able to translate those body of experiences, bring them to the screen. She's brought them to the big screen, and she's what's that word now? We all bandy about, bankable. She's now back. She puts out anything she does. I mean, her top 3 films are top highest grossing films in Nigeria ever. So that's the thing. So I just to push that.
But here's another problem, right? I think that there's a disconnect with Nollywood, because how is it, especially in new Nollywood, why is every single story about people in the 1%? If you want to get average Nigerians to watch your movies, make stories that they can relate to. Not like, okay, yes, you can aspire to be in the 1%. You can have a percentage of movies in that, about those stories.
I can tell you what.
But give us Nigerian stories about the average Nigerian, and that is what India does, and that's why India activates their audience in that way.
We want Nigerian, it's just like the average Nigerian Joe. Who is he? What is that?
Right. And what does he experience?
Exactly. So here's what I feel. Question. The 1%ers is, I think it's a lot of ego, a lot of, I'm also a filmmaker. Here's what I've done, and again, when you try to perpetuate an experience that is not yours. So you look at, you've gone through, the Rolodex of Hollywood movies, you've watched so much, and you think that by replicating it, or by, wrapping your product around with something that looks like what is from Hollywood and is a very cheap copy. Therefore, you have some sort of credence, or it gives you some sort of validation. That's the problem. So I think it's an ego problem, and I think it's also an ignorance problem. And I think that the quick and the truth about it is that and the results are there before you go to Netflix, you go to any streaming platform, even movies like I'm currently watching The Brother's Son and starring Michelle Yeoh. It's set in San Jose and Los Angeles, and it's completely Asian. But then again, you see the authentic Asian, that is, Hong Kong, Taiwanese, Chinese, like how it's mafia based, but it's an action comedy. My point is, you look at Korean stuff, you see why people love it is that it's real. They can connect with it. There's something that is about it. It's not pretentious. That's the word. It's not pretentious.
Can I just say? Can I just say, when it comes to those movies, those American Asian movies, it's because there's a specific American Asian experience.
Yeah.
That was so neglected in Hollywood. Like, notice that.
Yeah.
But YouTubers were making these stories
ready
from like 2010 to like 2015. There were these YouTubers that were getting millions of views and making Asian American dramas, and which is not, it was completely different from the Chinese experience, the Japanese drama, etc. It was so American Asian, and because of that, Hollywood had no choice but to, they couldn't ignore it.
And
it actually allowed Hollywood to access the Chinese markets because the Chinese people in China are curious about what an Asian American is experiencing.
Exactly. And it led to, it led to Parasite, an Oscar for Best Picture. I mean, that was a culmination of it, right? So
even though Parasite was an Asian film, it's a Korean film, but because of the acceptance of that American, that specific, like for example, Beef.
Yeah.
That's an American. It's different, but like
Asia.
But I feel like just as
the American Asian experience,
I was just like, so just as we saw the growth of K-dramas, and the growth of like Japanese cinemas in terms of in the international market, we also have seen the growth of it was Crazy Rich Asians that did it actually. It was Crazy Rich Asians because that showed the Western Asian.
Yes.
And it showed the Western Asians experience. And that allowed them to say, oh, wait a minute. This is a huge market that we've not tapped into. So let's create for this market. And so in America, it's like there's a huge Black American, cinema base, but it's like there's a disconnect with them in Africa. Now, if Nollywood does better, then there's going to be that connection we're already bridging the gap on social media.
We are.
Right? We've already bridged that gap, right? But it's now like, how can we now collaborate in these ways?
So it's now,
because we can really...
It's not about, so music has won. Music is winning. Now the next big frontier is film. Now, how do we that experience on social media? How do we now take it to the big screen for Nollywood? I think
so. Here's the problem, right? When it comes to music, what people don't understand is that there is a shelf life for popularity in music. It's typically about 3 to 4 years, right? In the US market. Nollywood has been reigning since 2021. We're already in the third year, 2023. Now, within the next 2 years, it's almost as though if we don't do something, Afrobeats might not stay where it is. Do you understand? It's going to still be a thing that people listen to, but is it going to be at the center stage of notoriety and attention? We don't know that. So what you were saying?
Yeah, so I was saying, I think that at the end of the day, it's really around how we bridge that gap. It's already happened on social media. How do we take that? And I hear you about the shelf life of music and all that stuff, but I feel that once we're able to get to film, we're able to carry those experiences to the big screen, because there's something, of course, what second screening is. We all do it. Whether you're watching Netflix, you're on TikTok, you're watching this.
Yeah, for sure.
Screening it is, so that tells you something. You rather be, let me pause this show and let me watch Sabinus.
This TikTok quickly. Oh, something's on Instagram. Let me quickly watch this 1 minute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel that once producers and executive producers, by virtue of investments, are able to push those sort of, invest in those sort of projects that are able to bridge that gap and make it happen, I think that is where the gold mine lies. Obviously diversify, our distribution process, create more, bring more players into the space, especially in terms of creating more outlets for cinema, for theatrical distribution, that kind of thing. Then what is wrong in building our own platforms, that kind of thing, in terms of streaming and all that? So I think
Oh well, we have to. In fact, that's even a whole other in terms of not even in terms of streaming, but building our own social media.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole other conversation around at what point. Right now, like I remember the Russia-Ukraine invasion on YouTube. I actually had to delete some of my Russia-Ukraine videos on my YouTube because there was they could revoke my my YouTube partnership if I basically go against Ukraine in my content. So that we're now getting a clearer vision as to what I call the white supremacist agenda, and the fact that a lot of their platforms cater to the agenda. So right now, Africa is adjacent with the agenda, but what happens if we start to empower ourselves, we become like a Russia, and we become a threat to them? They're going to kick us all off of Instagram. We need our own Instagram. We need our own YouTube. We need our own everything.
Where were you when Instagram and WhatsApp shut down for like 6 hours? This was like, 2 years ago?
Oh, 2021.
Yes.
I had actually just flown in from Lagos and I got here back to America that same day, and I was wondering, what's going on? Why is Instagram down?
Yes.
Yeah, that was funny.
So my point is, just to give credence to your point, that's what can happen. And in a fleeting second, businesses, brands were pretty much decimated. Like it was terrible. It was, so correct. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had very pretty much soon about both our own platforms, social media platforms.
Yeah, we need our own platform so that we can control our own narratives.
Yep.
And it's not even specific to building. It just needs to be sort of this Pan-African thing where our propaganda can be allowed to be proliferated, right?
Correct.
And and with free speech, that's another problem. That's another thing. With free speech, we should be allowed to.
Like a famous president once said, what was that famous saying that the problem is not there's freedom of speech, but there may not be freedom after speech.
Right. And then when you have to look at it that we have to be so big that they can't take us down. When you look at TikTok, why Congress in America were trying to take out TikTok is because they're actually creating this big divide in America. Because a lot of the content that I get on TikTok, I can never get that on Instagram. Never get that on YouTube. It's content that will tell me about white supremacy and the black experience, right? Those videos that are waking us up to white supremacy, right? You open up my TikTok, that's all you get. But there's no way that my Instagram, even though Google is or my YouTube, even though they're listening to everything I'm doing, there's no way they will allow that content, because again, they want us to stay ignorant to those things. So there's a lot of a threat, because China has an agenda to take down America, and they're creating these divides with TikTok, and the US is trying to shut it down, but it's too big for them to shut down.
It's a monster. It's too late for that. It's too late.
Yeah, so that's what we need to do. So I think if anybody's thinking about streaming when it comes to Africa, to answer to bring it all together, you need to think about not just streaming in the traditional SVOD platform type of way. You need to think about it from a YouTube perspective and a Pan-African perspective. And when you do that, all of a sudden all the attention is on your platform,
Correct.
And then you can decide how and who do you create the terms of what you allow to be distributed on your platform.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you so much, Obaigbena.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was great to catch up again, Kenim, and this is a very, 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 very super important, topic that is really, really dear to me, and it was great to be here, and I would love to do this again. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you like that. You're watching Business in Nigeria. I'm your host, Kenim O, and I'll see you next time.